Number 20, Indiana burst onto the scene last year. After not really being a historical football school, they go 11-2 with head coach Kurt Cignetti, Coach Sig, and they look to reload. They did lose some stuff. For example, Curtis Rourke is leaving the program. He went pro, and they look to replace him with Fernando Mendoza, Cal's QB last year. We mentioned him in the ACC preview, but he's not here to probably start. Among other guys, they're bringing in 9 transfers to start, so we kind of got a mix of returning guys and then some transfers to try and run it back and build on an impressive start to Kurt Cignetti's tenure here at Indiana. First, I want to go. I have an Indiana family friend, and I reached out to her, and she thinks she's cautiously optimistic about their season. Kind of what I already said. It's a mix of returners and new guys. She's curious if they can gel correctly or not. She does think that Indiana gets disrespected in the national media. I don't know how much I agree with her on that, but they did get clowned on a lot last season. I'm not sure all of it was fair. Well, let's start with the quarterback like we always do, though. Thoughts on Fernando Mendoza? I can give my thoughts. JP?
I can go.
Sure.
Mendoza does not really impress me. He's got choppy feet. He's really got happy feet in the pocket. He's never really like you want to see, where he's kind of in a little groove and going through his progressions. He like I said, he's happy feet, choppy feet. He almost never, in the highlights that I watched of last season, gets to your stereotypical throwing base. He throws off with bad footwork a lot of the time. The
Sure.
mechanics are just simply not good. But he still makes good throws somehow. He threw for 3,000 yards last season for Cal, and he's got a really strong arm. So he's got some talent there. I don't think he's as good as Rourke was, but he's no slouch. I just think with the poor footwork in the big games this year, I think he's going to turn the ball over a ton.
Yeah.
And I don't think that's going to, 6 interceptions last year, not a ton. I think he will this year, playing against talented defenses. He's playing against Penn State, Oregon, and Iowa, all of those on the road. I think he's going to struggle in all of those games, and I think it's going to hurt the Hoosiers a ton this year, just his lack of proper mechanics from a quarterback perspective. I see you got him on there, or one of you has him on there as a potential NFL draft darling. He's got a ton he's got to clean up before he gets there, I think.
Yeah.
But it's a good pickup. It fills the need, and I think it will keep them competitive this season. I just don't think he's good enough to win any of the big games for Indiana this year.
Yeah, I put NFL draft darling on there, not necessarily my opinion, but he's just kind of talked as someone that could really rise up boards. I was, doing research. I saw a couple of people be like potential QB1 if the season goes his way, which I think is kind of crazy. Because I also have it on there, he has to limit the bad plays, which comes down to the footwork and stuff you were talking about.
Was he one of the PFF top 200 guys?
I don't remember.
Okay.
I will say in his defense, he played behind a terrible O-line at Cal last season, which didn't help matters. And talking about rookie profiles, very different as Rourke, because Rourke was kind of your very accurate, safe QB, wasn't going to make mistakes, but wasn't necessarily going to make wow plays. Mendoza does have the arm, like you said, to make the wow plays, but he also is going to make a lot of mistakes because he tries to rely on the arm and not mechanics and footwork like you're talking about. So I'm interested to see how it goes for him here. I agree he could really struggle because it's a step up here in defenses in the Big Ten from the ACC, so we may have to adjust. His top weapon is going to be Elijah Surratt, who's returning for Indiana. He had 957 receiving yards and 8 touchdowns last season. But, yeah, their win total is at 8.5. But before I get there, JP, I have another question, I guess for both of y'all, really. You talked a lot about expectations for Illinois, right? And that they shouldn't really view themselves in that top tier, and they should look to dominate Tier 2. In my eyes, that's kind of how I view Indiana. But I think because of how Indiana themselves has portrayed themselves in the media, that they have tried to put themselves into Tier 1, and now it's almost like they have to prove it. I don't know if that makes sense. I feel like I didn't explain it very well. But it's like they don't get the same they themselves have raised their own expectations so high, and so now they do have to meet that.
Yeah.
Thoughts on that? Do I need to try and rephrase
No,
it?
no, you phrased it well. I'm trying to think. I would agree. I do think that Indiana, they had a very successful season last year, and it was Cignetti's
Fantastic
first year,
season.
right?
Mm-hmm.
And I would say that Indiana fans probably did. However, your Indiana friend who said cautiously optimistic, I don't know if she's a good cross section of the entire fan base, but like cautiously optimistic, I think is a fair way to approach this season. I mean, it's possible you get 9 wins, 10, probably not 10 unless you can beat Illinois at home, but 9 wins is still on the table, 10 wins with a bowl game. But I think you're right. I don't think that's going to prove themselves in the top tier. I think they're still going to lose to the Oregon and Penn State teams. So I really don't see them proving that they're a top tier Big Ten team this season. But I don't know that they'll be too upset about it. I could be wrong. I don't know that. I feel like even Indiana fans have to recognize that last season's schedule was easy. Now, I'm not saying that was necessarily their fault, the way their conference schedule fell, nor do I think that they should have been out of the playoffs. I had them in it. But their schedule last season was easy, and the hardest team they faced, they lost to. And, I mean, that's kind of – I don't know what Indiana fans are going to say that they, yeah. I could see that being the case, but I think that they'll be okay with 9 wins, 10 wins. Like, I don't know why they wouldn't be.
Well, I mean, if they get to 9-10 wins and hit their over, and that's 10 wins, you very well are in the college football playoffs again, depending on how things break. So, I mean, that, I think, right there, that's not necessarily a
bad season.
Yeah, there's no reason to even try and spin it. JP, give your thoughts.
Yeah, I'll push back on that. Yeah, they played their best team they played and they lost, but that's Ohio State at the shoe. Only Michigan wins there. So I don't know how much of an argument that is towards how bad Indiana was. And in the other game against Notre Dame, that's also at Notre Dame. That's not really an easy game for anyone, regardless of who it is.
No.
I think they're going to be good this year. Their viewpoint comes from their coach. It comes from Coach Sig. He is bombastic. He is overly confident, and rightfully so, because the dude is a winner. All he has done since he's got to the FBS level is win. 8-3 at JMU, 11-1 at JMU, and 11-2 last year. They're hitting the over this year. I'm going to go ahead and tell you that, because all that Kirk Cignetti does is win. And they're going to win a ton of games this year. Are they going to compete and win at Oregon or Penn State? Probably not. But I think they'll win every other game on the schedule. I think Coach Shig has proven that he is capable of doing that regardless of who the roster is. And I think they've got a good enough roster this year to compete with all the other teams on their schedule.
Sure.
I think for them, can you stay ranked all year would be nice. I think it helps the program a ton because, like you said at the top, this is not a football program historically ever. This is notoriously just a basketball program and a basketball university, and their success last year was unprecedented, and they're just hoping that they can continue that, and I think they will this year. I think 9 wins is very doable. 8 wins is the floor for me, but I think they'll get to 9 or 10 wins this year.
Yeah, I'm also going to take the over at 9. I am still, it's just like, I'm all for. I actually do like Coach Sig. You kind of described him perfectly. It's just you have to keep delivering on that if you're going to talk like that. And so far he has. So there's no reason to really hate. But it does almost feel like, in a way to me, they're building a house of cards. Like it wouldn't take much for all of it to crumble down. But it is a fairly talented team. They made good additions in the portal to fill holes of people they left. Put himself in a good spot again this season. So I'll take the over.
Yeah, I would have loved to have seen Cignetti maybe capitalize on last year's season with a little bit better talent, bringing in some better talent. They finished 15th out of 18 in Big Ten in high school recruiting 2025, 7th out of 18 in the portal. But I'm also going to take the over because I also believe in Cignetti, and I still think that the schedule, other than those 3 ranked games, is pretty favorable towards them, and even that Illinois game is at home. So I'm also going to go with the over, but I'll be interested to see if they get another 9-10 win season. What does recruiting look like next year? Can Cignetti really start to cash in those wins and build something stronger than a house of cards, because I don't know that how sustainable that success is in the Big Ten, where you're playing teams regularly with blue chip ratios like 60-70%.
Sure.
If you're bringing in 4 stars a class and maybe a 5-star, it's going to be hard to hang with them and keep clicking.
It's kind of what he does, though. We talked about it at length before his first season in Indiana. It's like they just relentlessly scout the guys they want, and they find people that they think fit their athletic profile and their mental makeup. They're looking for dogs. Obviously, you'd rather have a 5-star dog. But I will say, if I trust someone, coming back to trusting Coach Sig, if I trust someone to build a program with not the most highly rated guys, it's him. So I'll give him some credit there. But anyway, so you said over. So we all have him going over.